we're in the final week, I would say, of the Eightfold Path. So we're kind of coming to the end of all of the spokes that make up this wheel, this balanced wheel, ethical wheel that helps kind of us ride our lives. And the spoke that we're going to be talking about today is effort. Nellie, are you coming in here?
Oh no, I thought you were going to do the next one.
Oh,
I had the game plan a little off.
okay. I guess I'll come in here. So we put a little bit of effort into our conversation this morning. So we'll see how that effort goes. But in thinking about this, I want to consider that effort underlies all the other spokes of the path, that it's actually the fuel for action, for speech, for samadhi, concentration, and all the other spokes that I can't remember right now, right? I can't always name all of them in one fell swoop.
We could throw in livelihood, and we could throw in sati. We could put in awareness. It certainly awareness certainly takes effort.
Right, right. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Like, how do we come to this balanced effort, skillful effort, appropriate effort, where it really is useful to us and to others, that it's not too much or too little. It's somewhere right, kind of in a sweet spot for us.
Right. And of course, the sweet spot, we veer off of the sweet spot and then we come back to the sweet spot. In fact, maybe that's one of the great benefits of awareness, is knowing when that's true, being aware of it.
Awareness and then discernment, right, Nellie? That kind of,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. Um, right. And so it takes a degree of calm or clarity to know when and how to apply effort, which now we're on to another spoke of the wheel. So they're inseparable, and yet we need to separate things to look a little more deeply at them, but knowing that they actually are inseparable.
Right. And there's definitions, different definitions, again, and we try to broaden and use a few definitions so that people can kind of pick up the ones that work. And one of the definitions that we pulled is appropriate effort is defined as preventing and abandoning unskillful mind states while preserving and cultivating those which are beneficial.
And at first I really disliked this teaching. First of all, I couldn't quite understand some of the languaging. I would go like, what is it about? And then suddenly I honed in on it, and it seemed very useful and really not very not really that quite understandable, which is that, and I'm going to apply it to one of the spokes on the wheel that we didn't mention a minute or so ago, which is about speech. Because speech, skillful, appropriate speech takes actually quite a bit of effort, I find. So if we look at the first of the four things that we think about with effort, which is you know reducing unskillful speech, just reducing it, doing less of it, right? But then sometimes really it's not there at all. The impetus to, we don't feel judgmental as we look at that person. So the idea of it's sort of like, yeah, we don't have to it's already abandoned that judgmentalness that we might have felt a year or 10 years ago. We notice it's gone. It's gone. And then so those are the first two when it comes to the unskillful, which is that we try to, reduce it, and sometimes it's even abandoned. But then when we look at the effort towards positive mind states, we want to preserve the ones we have, but we also want to build on them and create more positive mind states. So if we have speech patterns that we know are they're good, they're right, they're ethical, but we could maybe even hone them in a little more, discern a little more, and perhaps they'd become a bit kinder or wiser.
This may be one of the reasons, I'm just kind of thinking of this now, why we really allow thinking and speech and thoughts into our meditation is that we're in this kind of container with how we talk to ourselves, with how we talk to others, with the way we write, and that we're really discerning, what is positive and wholesome, what should be restrained. And sometimes we don't know that. It's a real trial and error. We're in a real experimentation with this, and then bringing it out and actually then speaking it, talking about our experience to somebody else. We get another review of our speech, or another spoke, let's say, on the wheel, so that it becomes something that we're finding out and discovering as we meditate, as we go through this practice together.
Right. And Linda, I think what you were saying, if I understood you correctly, was that by letting our thoughts into our meditation, we're speaking to ourselves. And sometimes we're speaking to others in our imagination.
Yeah,
And as we're speaking to self and others, we can start to see what we would want to restrain and what we would
right,
want to build on, what's
right.
skillful, what's not so skillful.
Right, and sometimes we have states that don't have much speech, or speech drops away, or thinking drops away. But I think those often come from allowing them in, and being there, because that's the way we interact in the world, through
Yeah.
speaking with each other.
Yep, that's our view and we'll stand by it.
Should we read what we wrote in the book?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read a little bit of it. This is a paragraph that we wrote in Reflective Meditation, Cultivating Kindness and Curiosity in the Buddhist Company. Um, and it's about effort, but we also look at it as energy, determination, and strength. This awakening factor, oh, it's actually one of the factors of
Yeah,
awakening too.
I
It's
know.
on another list.
Yes, it is.
It's very important, this effort, to an active engagement with life, having the strength and energy to do what's needed, not collapsing or giving up. We're back to the Buddhist teaching about the strings of the vinaya, the guitar-like instrument. When it's too taut, we're not looking for the strings to be too taut or too loose. But here's the catch. What's too tight or too loose in our life depends on situations that shift and change.
So we pulled some thoughts from Stephen Batchelor, who's in the secular Buddhist world. And he says, the Eightfold Paths imagine how we can best live on this earth, create the conditions, application in a mindful, focused way of living, provides a framework in which to find our own voice, to hear callings, vocations to find the right work, and thus engages us with the necessity of survival itself. So he's talking about the whole Eightfold Path, but again, underlying the fuel, as we say, of the Eightfold Path is where are we going to put our efforts so that we can best live on this earth, so that others can best live on this earth. And I think that's a potent question for myself and most people I speak with, which is how are we going to do it now when we're in the midst of all these crises, crises to democracy, crises to the environment, to the climate, to the earth. You go on, we can keep on going on, but how do we find our way? Where do we
One
put
way,
effort? Go
I
ahead.
mean, one way that's really close at hand that comes up is the effort that we put into our meditation practice, and into showing up when we do, into creating these talks, into helping keep this alive. And we talk about this a lot, but I feel like that reminder and that value is still an undercurrent with what's going on, and it's very strongly felt.
So,
I think it's time.
okay, I think
We're a little discombobulated on this, but I feel like we got our point across, Nellie.
okay, good.